Hey guys, it's Mr. Schwartz again from Olathe West High School. We're going to move into our week 3 lesson, and the week 3 lesson is going to be about the pieces of argument and sort of what builds an argument and the orders that they can come in. Obviously, arguments can come in any sort of order, but we're going to talk about the basic pieces that make an argument and how authors use those pieces to complete their arguments. We're going to have you guys do some things like looking at authors' arguments and sort of reverse engineering them. That is, putting them from the prose or written form back into an outline. So again, like we would make an outline and then write our piece, we're going to actually take their piece and turn it back into an outline as a way of seeing how they structured their argument and what the effect of that structure might be. So we're going to take a look at those pieces now, follow along, and again, on behalf of the sophomore team, welcome back. Let's get into week 3. Hi everyone, and welcome to week 3. We're going to talk about structuring arguments, and I want to use something that I call the hourglass principle to help you imagine how arguments can be structured and to help you envision the pieces of an argument and how they might fit together. Even though they don't always come in one order, it's a good way to imagine the pieces that are necessary to create an argument. So what I want you to imagine is an hourglass. Something like this. Something that's broad at the top and gets narrower as it goes down and then wide again at the bottom. Maybe a funnel, upside down triangle, something like that. When we look at the hourglass, one of the things that we see that it shares in common with an introduction or with the introduction to an essay as it moves into its body is that it starts broad and it gets more specific. So if we look at the introduction of an essay, typically it's going to be the broadest part of an essay in terms of the ideas. It's going to establish the larger context for our argument, and it's going to provide the main claim, right? The main argument of the essay, what needs to be established by the writer. Because again, we talked about this last week. If you're going to have an argument, you're typically going to give context for that argument. You're not going to walk up to someone and say, I like baseball. They'll say, okay, that's fine. But they'll probably look at you like you're a little weird. Instead, you're going to give them context. You might talk about why baseball is important as a way of talking about your main claim, which is that perhaps baseball is not, in fact, a boring sport, and you could go about proving that. Okay, so when we look at the introduction, again, we're moving from our broadest point, the context, which is the broadest, to the main claim, which is slightly more specific, or your main argument, right? And then we move downward. As we get into the content of the essay, we'll be looking at the body sections. These are getting more narrow. We're trying to prove our main claim by using reasons. We might call these sub-claims or think of them as like mini claims, but really if I say baseball isn't boring, you're going to say, okay, give me some reasons. Right? These reasons are in support of that main claim, and so we're getting more narrow as we move down. Also, we're going to be using evidence to support those reasons, something that I could prove to you. So I might say in evidence, baseball isn't boring, say because it's not as long as an NFL game. Some evidence might be some average running times for baseball versus NFL games. Then I'm going to explain to you the relevance of that evidence. How does it, in fact, prove that that reason is true? If I'm a really good writer, I'm going to provide you with analysis. That means I'm going to explain to you not only how the evidence supports the reason, but I'm also going to explain to you why it matters in connection to that main claim. So I'm going to connect the reason to the main claim. Lastly, moving back towards more broad, we're going to have a conclusion, and this is going to explain the significance of the entire essay, all of the reasons, and how they prove that my main claim is in fact true. So again, you can see how we've moved from introduction, context, and main claim at the most broad, getting more narrow as we move through the body sections, and then coming back out to broad and explain the significance of our entire argument to the audience and how it's shaped like an hourglass. Now, this is also a useful way to envision sections of our body. Okay? Some of you guys might say body paragraphs. I don't think that's as useful as saying sections. If we say sections, we can envision that a point may take longer to prove. So in a 2-page paper, body paragraph works just fine. But in a 20-page paper, you might want to use body section. It might take you 1 to 2 pages to prove one point, and it may take you multiple paragraphs with multiple subclaims to be able to prove that point. We're not going to be doing any writing that long, but it's useful to think of it that way. So let's just change our minds about how we're going to talk about the structure of essays. And instead of saying body paragraph, let's say body section. So if we're going to structure a body section, that same principle applies. Let's just take one paragraph at a time. At the beginning of that body paragraph or body section, I might actually give you the context of my supporting claim, or as we call it up here, my reason. Okay, I'm going to give you a context for that. So I'm going to talk just about this one point and give you the context of this one point, and then I'm going to give you my main reason or supporting claim. I'm going to provide this claim and I'm going to develop it in this section. As I move down through the section from broad to more narrow, I'm going to give you evidence that supports the claim in this section. I'm going to explain the relevance of the evidence to the claim in this section, and I'm going to give you a reason why that evidence and why that explanation is relevant to proving my overall claim as well. So as you can see, we can even use this structure, this hourglass structure, to describe body sections of the essay. Now, I do want to give one warning. This is a good visualization tool for structuring essays and their pieces, but many writers do not use this exact structure. You can be confident that these pieces are going to be in the argument, but the author may use a different structure for a different purpose. So if you're looking to extend your thinking this week, as you read articles, you may want to look at what is the structure? What order do these things come in? So as we have you pick apart the argument and sort of take the argument that we're going to have you read and then put it back into an outline, we want to ask, why did the author structure it this way? If it didn't come in this particular order, was there a reason and was it effective? So be thinking about those things as you read this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.